I'd like to call to order our utility special district meeting. The date is February 21st and the time is 5:39 p.m. Madam Clerk, roll call.
Chairperson Douglas Lawson,
Here.
Vice Chair Shirley Lanier, Board Member Chadwick McCoy, Board Member Kashamba Miller Anderson,
Present.
Board Member Julia Botel,
Here.
Ex Officio Mayor Ronnie Felder,
Here.
City Manager Jonathan Evans, Executive Director Michael Lowe,
Present.
Acting District Clerk Deborah Hall is present, District Attorney Don Nguyen, Finance Director Randy Sherman. Mr. Chair, you may proceed. You have a quorum.
Thank you. If we can have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Dr. Botel.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any additions, deletions, substitutions? None from staff. Thank you. Disclosures from the board? Motion to adopt, please.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Madam Clerk?
Board Member Botel, Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Board Member Lawson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, please let the record reflect that ex officio Board Member Mayor Ronnie Felder is present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have no items on consent tonight, and we're going to go straight into awards and presentations. Madam Clerk?
Awards and presentations, item 4A, presentation by the Haskell CDM Smith JV on the design progress for the new water treatment plant.
Whatever is more convenient for you all.
Thank you, board members in the city of Riviera Beach, for giving Haskell and CDM Smith, the joint venture, the opportunity to present to you guys tonight. We just want to give a high-level update on the status of the project and where we're moving forward through. So I'm Michael Hoisington, the project director for the project, the overall project manager. We also have Steve Link, the project or the design manager for the project. Been doing this for 31 years and has extensive membrane experience along with softening and other treatment designs. I also have Suzanne Meckler. She is the project executive, and she has 24 years of experience, and she was going to be here helping to support us on this presentation tonight. So we got a quick short video. This is some of the past items that we've performed on the, leading up to the project. So this is the public outreach that we've done, a community event where we assisted Utility Special District about bringing information on the project, and also just having a community event to explain where we're going, heading forward. This is a drill rig showing some of the borings that have been taking place at Blue Heron and Avenue U. This is the RO skid touchscreen for controls.
Here's some aeration testing that we were doing on the wells that were coming in. We've got 2 nanofiltration units. We've got an orange skid, which has a little bit of a looser membrane, lower pressures required. We're also testing the yellow. This is an actual cutaway or opening up the membrane lumen where you can see. I mentioned we have 2. This is the second nanofiltration unit we have, and it's a yellow skid, higher, tighter membrane. Here's some photos of us doing some water quality testing. We're doing dissolved oxygen measurements and testing. We had some jar tests. Here's a small scale. These are our media filter units that we're doing upstream of the medias to protect the medias and remove contaminants. So, thank you.
So that's just pilot information where we're testing the water, trying to figure out what are the treatments we're going to need for this project. So just a quick high level of the timeline. So we submitted the RFQ back in June of 2021. Then we received the notice to proceed January 18th of 2023. So we've been just over a year on the design of the project. As soon as we got that notice to proceed, we kicked off right away, getting into workshops and the design aspect of it. And Steve's going to go through those components.
So thank you, Michael. Michael reviewed with us the procurement and the contractual timeline. Basically, what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to walk through with you what the progress has been on the design side. And designing an advanced water treatment plant requires a lot of moving parts, a lot of steps. We're adding 8 new groundwater supply wells. We've got over 5 miles of raw water transmission main. We've also, aside from the new water treatment plant, we're going to have a concentrate disposal well. We're going to have a new ground storage tank, 5 million gallon ground storage tank, and we'll have a finished water pump station. We kicked off the design with 4 key workshops. About a week after 5 days actually, after the kickoff meeting, we conducted a building design program meeting where we worked with Riviera Beach, both Public Works and USD, to determine what the space requirements, office space, conference room, parking, etc., was going to be required as we lay out the facility. That was followed by, a week later, we conducted the preliminary treatment alternative workshop. And in that workshop, we identified the various types of treatment technologies that were available that we could review. We discussed the pros and cons associated with each one of those and also discussed costs associated with those. And we narrowed those treatment alternatives down to 3 options that went to the 3rd workshop, which was the treatment alternative workshop that we conducted in March. And what we reviewed with the treatment alternative workshop was all of the alternatives in terms of operational and maintenance costs. And we prepared an overall assessment, and we performed a weighted criteria analysis to make a determination of which technology would be recommended for the project. After our recommendation, it was adopted and accepted by Riviera Beach, and that became the basis of design for the treatment facility site layout. We started the facility layouts in April, and we realized very quick after we tied in all of the outputs from the building design programming workshop, the 1st workshop, with the 3rd workshop, the treatment alternatives workshop, after we threw in all the membrane process treatment units, as well as all of the vertical construction and parking needs, that we were really running out of space quick, okay? So in essence, we were trying to put 10 gallons of stuff in a 5-gallon bucket, but we didn't stop there. We prepared over 36, 37 conceptual site layouts. We were trying to come up with innovative ways to develop the site so we can get everything to fit. That actually took from April to October, coming up with these different options. And in October, the decision was made that the Public Works Administration Building would remain at its current location. So what we did is we were able to focus our site layout based on what was needed for the water plant.
Sorry, just a quick question
Sure.
for you. You said the Public Works will remain in its current location, where it is on 13th Street currently?
Correct.
And that decision was made when?
In October,
And who made that decision?
Michael Lode, who was the city manager.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Mr. Evans?
with respect to that, when they were having the conversation, they did come back with staff and we did the analysis that it would roughly shave about $30 million off the project if we were to remain at the existing facility versus looking to construct a new public works site. And so that was a decision that was made at the staff level to continue to operate the existing site and not to look to effectively construct a new administrative building on that site because it would not have worked.
Okay, so from my understanding, is staff made the decision to keep Public Works at the current location, to not build the facility where it was designed and where we were presented that we'd have Public Works at that new location, and then being able to sell the site at 13th Street, which is actually a valuable piece of land. Do we have an assessed amount of what that valued land is on 13th Street?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Mr. Evans?
We do have the, I believe the appraisal on that particular property. I don't recall the specificities off the top of my head on what the value of that property is. And that's something we can certainly provide to the board. But when we did take a look at the opportunity cost and the cost to effectively construct a new public works site on the existing campus, it was cost prohibitive. In addition to, we even looked at Avenue U as an alternative to site the public works facility there, and it still would be a 25 to 30 plus $million construction project. So when we looked at the cost per square footage and then the facilities that we have at Public Works, it was a better alternative for us to remain on that existing facility so they can maximize the footprint for the water treatment plant at the existing site.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. If you can continue with the presentation. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So concurrent with the layouts, the concept layouts of the facility, we were performing everything that was needed to advance the design. We prepared the basis of design report. We conducted, and we already saw photos in our video, the nanofiltration pilot plant. We kicked that off in May, and we're going to be wrapping that up in April of this year. That pilot will be integral to determining design criteria that will be dovetailed into the design criteria of the new plant. We also submitted a deep injection well permit and monitoring well in February. And really to get things kicked off with the project, we've got the early work package that Michael Hoisington is going to review with you later in the presentation. The two large portions of the design are the groundwater production wells. Remember, I said we've got 8 of those. We completed the 30% design in November. 60% will be completed in March, and we'll have a GMP in May is what's proposed. For the site design, 30% will also happen in March. 60% is scheduled for June, and the GMP would be tendered in September 24. I'd like to walk through with you, if I could, just the due diligence that we took to evaluate the different water treatment technologies. So I mentioned that we evaluated a lot of different alternatives that were going to meet the needs of the city. But they were the 3 that were evaluated more fully had to do with using ion exchange and membrane technologies. We implemented a treatment technology screening criteria analysis that included reviewing the raw water quality of the city, of the 2 aquifers that we're looking at. We also, as I mentioned we had to look at the technologies and what impact they would have on the overall site footprint. We wanted to make sure we're going to have room to site all of the process structures needed for the treatment system. We also looked at the solids handling residuals aspect of each technology. Also took in, most importantly, the capital cost and the O&M cost for both construction and long-term. We wanted, when we were looking at the water quality, we wanted to make sure that we were going to be compliant with both current and proposed future regulations. And we didn't do that in a vacuum. We visited local water treatment plants at Palm Beach County as well as Seacoast. We took operation staff from the district to these facilities so they can get a look and feel of what they would be looking to find for their new plant. So that was very, very helpful and beneficial. And it was helpful too when we went through what I said, the weighted criteria analysis, when we reviewed all of the different screening criteria that compounded by reviewing the life cycle cost analysis from each technology, coming away with a recommendation that was adopted by the city. So this is a conceptual site layout. You can see the site. This is the Avenue L site where you have West Blue Heron Boulevard here, and you got Avenue L. The site actually is an L. Going from north to south, this is the layout of the operations building, the membrane treatment. You have the pre-treatment units. You saw in the pilot skids, we had the pressure media filters. These are the full-scale pressure media filters. We also have here, we have the concentrate disposal well, shown right here. Over here would be located over by the process equipment, would be the chemical pre and post treatment chemical systems. Here we have our transfer pump station and degasifier system, and you have your 5 million gallon ground storage tank and your new finished water distribution pump station. This would be the electrical building and the generators that would provide power in the event that there was a power outage. So a better site layout, this is actually one of the options that you can see in the corridor there. It's important to note as we come off of Blue Heron Boulevard, we've removed all the fences and gates. So for clarity purposes, you can see as you fly over, you can see the concentrate well. You remember I mentioned all the pre and post chemical systems. These are your degasifier units. This is your transfer pumps. Over there is your finished water pump station. As we round the corner, this is your 5 million gallon ground storage tank. You can see as we come around the bend here, we've got provisions for dry storage for stormwater. This is your electrical building. These are your generators. And we fly over back to the north. You can see your pre-filters, your booster pump station, and we come back to Blue Heron Boulevard. I wanted to, and I'll touch on this too. This is not just a cartoon. This is actually a 3D BIM model that has the entire design encapsulated. So we have all the disciplines, all the engineering disciplines, working in the same 3D model space. And we were able to take each and every one of those models to prepare our site plan, which is what we saw here, and we colorized so it looks pretty. So anyway, Suzanne, do you want to?
All right, I would like to just hit on some really important decisions that were made over the last year that will.
Also, I'm sorry, welcome.
I'm
welcome.
sorry.
And your name for the record, please.
Suzanne Meckler with CDM Smith.
Thank you. Welcome,
Thank
Suzanne.
you. These decisions are going to be the basis for the future and really were key in us defining the parameters of the plant that we're designing. First of all, I want to note that you are, as part of this project, will get a new water supply, right? Your current water supply is a superficial aquifer system that you have 27 existing wells that provide that water to your plant. We will be drilling 2 new wells, but in general, your current water supply system is maintained in the superficial aquifer system. One of the key things that happened in the last year, and Brown and Caldwell as the owner's advisor and the city, the utility special district led this effort, but was really identifying how much water we can get from the Floridan. This is a new water source for you. And because it's new, there was a lot of modeling and effort that had to be done that we had to prove to the water management district for us to get that water. And the Floridan aquifer, just for perspective, is a lot further down. The superficial aquifer is usually 100 to 200 feet down. There's a confining layer between the 2 aquifers, and the Floridan is anywhere over 600 feet down, right? It's a much deeper system, could be up to 1,000. But in general, the Floridan aquifer system is a saltier source of water supply. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's also more consistent. There's less competition currently for it. It doesn't get impacted by what you hear a lot with saltwater intrusion. So it's a good adder to the city. It'll provide you more longevity in your system. And so actually just last week, we finally received the water use permit for the city, which is a very big deal. It's a 20-year for your base allocation and a 30-year for alternative water supply. But really, what that does, it basically confirms that we have the city, I'm saying we meaning the city, has that water source, okay? So the basis that was done in the last year was confirming we can get it. A lot of modeling went into it that was done by the owner's advisor, Brown and Caldwell, with the city, and also just identifying how we're going to allocate that. They are two different treatment technologies that are required for them, even though they're both membranes. One is, I would call it a tighter membrane because you have to remove the salts. And so it was critical for us to define how much you're using from each so we can design the treatment plan to support that. Okay. We also, one of the things that happened in the last year is based on, growth and wanting to make sure that you're protected and this is enough allocation for the future. We did increase the maximum day permitted capacity to 14 MGD. I think originally it was uncertain or a little bit less than that. So the number you see now is a number that we've worked with, again, the owner's advisors and the utility district to confirm. And these are what we use to move forward as a basis of design. So I guess at the end of the day, what does it mean for you, right? I know everyone wants a new water treatment plant, and so that's our main goal. We are building a water treatment plant. But, there's a lot of work. I think Steve mentioned that the basis of design report was submitted in October of 2023. That document is a very important document because it's going to be the basis of what we submit for permitting agencies. Okay, so really the next step for us is to move from the design to permit/construction. So the report that was submitted is going to be the report that we submit. One of the things that we're leveraging or utilizing is the pilot testing that's currently being done, and that will be finishing up as they mentioned in April. We're incorporating the results from that pilot testing into the report, as well as some final numbers on chemical usage and really key parameters that the health department and FDEP look to when they review these permits. So the result of it will also not only meet your typical primary and secondary standards, but we've also closely worked with the owner's advisor and the utility district to really define what you want the water to look like, feel like, taste like. And those are some things that are a little bit, it's based on your experience, right? Everybody can kind of feel like if they take a shower and the water doesn't, or the soap doesn't leave their skin, right? It's not necessarily a health issue. It's more of a perception of the water. So we really work to define what that water quality is going to be that's above and beyond the permitted required standards. And so those have been incorporated in our part of our basis of design. And a couple of just other things to note is we are converting to a higher strength disinfection process as part of this project. And you mentioned, I think Michael mentioned the 5 million gallon storage tank. That is important to provide a lot of storage for when you have either a fire flow issue, you want that storage, but also just gives a lot more flexibility to the city to constantly make sure they have constant flow of water to the customers. So those are some of the key decisions that were made in the last year and is really the basis for us moving forward. So,
If we can also let the record reflect, Pro Temp Lanier, Vice Chair Lanier is on the dais.
So my next slide is going to be another video flyover, but it's of the membrane process operations building. So it goes pretty quick, so I'm giving you a little prelude. So here we go. We're coming in. We take the roof. We're looking under the hood. You can see in pink, those are your future membrane racks that we would use for expanding. You can see as we fly in, we have the membrane feed pumps in green. We've got the cartridge filters, followed by the sand strainers. Now the magenta units are now screened sort of like a phantom ghost. Those are your new membrane racks. And as we turn the corner, we will look at the actual membrane racks that we're proposing here. On your left would be your 4 RO units, and on your right would be the 5 nanofiltration units. This, as I mentioned, is not a cartoon. It's the actual 3D BIM model. You can see here we've got all process mechanical, electrical, instrumentation, HVAC, all the design disciplines working in one model space. The reason that's good is it allows us as a design team to not only show you all what what it is that we're proposing, to get you a feel for what it might look like. It'll allow you to determine whether or not you think and feel that you have adequate room around said equipment for operation and maintain of the equipment. It also allows you to, to have an appreciation. If you're, seeing a 3D rendering, it allows you to have a better spatial concept of what it is we're proposing as a design team. So what I'd like to leave you is this. We have a website, and what we're proposing to do is to bring these renderings into the website so you can access those and you can kind of fly around and navigate. Your kids may be better at it than you are, but it's an opportunity for you to get a better appreciation of what it is we're proposing.
Even Steve, last week at our meeting that we had with the Special Utility District, we were actually taking this image and flipping it around, and we actually went down into the trench, the pipe trench, to talk about different concerns, conflicts, or routing of the piping. So it's a tool that we can use to work with and show spatial awareness to the operators and let them convey any potential pitfalls that we might not know about or concerns that they've had on previous projects. So it is a tool, it's an asset, and it's great to be able to share with the public. So wanted to talk about our progress to date. So this is actually a photo of a drill rig performing borings at Avenue L. We actually are also doing borings at Avenue U currently, followed, and after that we're going to go out to the well sites and the right-of-way for the future transmission routes. We've also done environmental assessments have been conducted on the current site. And we've also done ground penetrating radar, GPR, to see about any anomalies, any areas that we might need to investigate to be able to further develop the design. So as you can see here, here's the boring map, and you can see we've overlaid it with the structures that we're planning. The different colors mean different depths. As you can see, we've got about 70 borings shown on this map. We want to be able to know what is the ground, what's the characteristics of the ground. Will it be able to support the weight of these structures? Because you'll see in a later slide, but the ground storage tank is going to hold 42 million pounds of water. So that's a lot of weight that's going to be bearing pressure on the ground. So we need to evaluate that and make sure we design the foundation sufficiently to be able to handle all the weight. So as you see, this job is going to have approximately 1,200 design drawings that we're going to be utilizing to build this plant. Those are going to be packets that we're going to be able to put out to the marketplace, to the local vendors, to get pricing and be able to build this project to the specifications and drawings that these designers have created for us. Like I said, we had 70 borings already on Avenue L. We also have a handful of borings that are going to be happening at Avenue U and the well sites. There's going to be 9 new wells, 2 superficial, 6 Floridian, and 1 deep injection well. Steve indicated earlier there's 5 miles of off-site piping. There's approximately a 1 mile of piping on site. That wasn't shown in the flyover that you saw. It is in the model that's there, but there's approximately a mile of pipe that's in between all those structures, also with electrical conduits too. So it looks like it's spaced out, but there's just as many structures underground as there are above ground. And like I said, 42 million pounds of water are going to be stored on that site to be able to provide fresh drinking water to the community. So, so what we're asking for tonight is approval of an early works package. This early works package is going to be prepping the site for the next phase, for prepping for the wells, for doing additional. We do got some environmental work that we have to do out there. We want to decommission the fuel transfer. The fueling station. We want to remove there's piles of debris out there that the city utilizes as a collection area. There's containers out there. We want to set up the trailers for our future workers that will be on site. And we want to also bring in fill. The site's going to be raised, so we're going to start bringing in some of the fill that's required for the project. So what are the next steps to move forward? Right now, the land is under the city of Riviera Beach. We need to have that transferred to the Special Utility District. We also need to shut down the fueling station. That's, for us to decommission that, we need to stop having the police, the fire department, the city vehicles going out there and utilizing that fueling station, because we need to remove it and also do investigations under there to make sure it can sufficiently handle the weight of that storage tank. Also, we need to cease bringing in materials, the debris around the site, around the city, into that facility. And then we need to prioritize permits. The permits are on us, but we're going to ask that, when we submit these permits, can we walk these through so we can start working on the construction to further develop and progress the building of this water treatment plant. And we also want to be able to do periodic updates. We have not come and presented to you since we won the project. We would like to be able to do presentations periodically to keep you and the city abreast of how the project's progressing. And we also want to do community and subcontractor outreach. As you saw, we've provided renderings. They're out there in the hallway. We actually did, there's stickers at the back corner right here. We asked that you and the rest of the community take those stickers and select what renderings out there do you like the best. And we will work with those renderings and further refine and develop those. We did propose to do charrettes, and we will do charrettes at a later date. But that's part of the community outreach. We want to get buy-in from the community on building this facility. And also subcontractor outreach. With the approval of this package tonight, we have already planned next Tuesday from 4 to 6 a subcontractor outreach. And we ask that you attend and also the community to be able to see what kind of subcontractors we'll be able to include in this project. So with that being said, I'd like to say thank you. And what questions could we answer for you?
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Dr. Patel, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. It's very exciting, isn't it? Well, we can see that building a new water treatment plant is a very, very complex process. It's not just, building a fire station or building your own home. It's very complex with design issues, testing, boring, et cetera. If someone were to say to you, you could have had this built sooner, how would you respond?
Steve, the designer.
Yeah.
Design Steve.
So the best way to answer that question would be I use the word methodically. You want to methodically go through the best practice for designing a plant to make sure that you are turning over every rock you can to allow us all to be successful. So it's not something you want to rush. It's not something you can just, there's no canned design. There's no one size fits all. Every design that I've had the opportunity to work on over my last 31 years has been very, very different. You learn a lot. And over the years, you apply those lessons learned to the design. So the due diligence that we do in the design, you can't see. And that's why I think it's great for Mike to propose to you to allow us to provide, periodic updates to you really know what's going on behind the scenes, because there are so many moving parts in the design. And you are absolutely right, ma'am, that to do that overly expeditiously quick will run into problems. So anyway, I think that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm just going to add one thing that I think is really important. Early on in a design, decisions are key. And we made some key decisions this year. Obviously the final site is important. We can't drill borings until you know where the structures are going to go. So that's, why the drill rig's out there now versus 6 months ago, right? Otherwise we would have had to bring them back and then you pay to bring them back. But making decisions is key. We've made those decisions. At least, the project team feels like we have the direction. The other thing that is different is it's hard to describe, but the basis of design is really important. I know we showed that we submitted in October of last year, but it sets the parameters for the rest of the job. And although it feels like that part was slow, the rest of the part is going to ramp up real quick, because now that you have that information, you have direction, you have a design started, you have capacities, you have the number of units. So from this point on, it goes a lot quicker, and we can actually maneuver and pull out different pieces as we showed you with the wells and things like that. And so, yeah, I do recognize that there might be a perception that you feel like it's been slow moving. I will say that the project team is full steam ahead, and we're really looking forward to getting into construction. Our goal is in 2024, this year, that we are starting construction, and you can physically see stuff working. And the last effort that we've done is reflected because we can move so quickly this year. So that's
Thank
my
you so much.
Chair.
A quick follow-up. When you say we're going to start digging in 2024, any projection? I mean, I know it's hard to make these kinds of guesstimates, but do you have any idea when we're going to be able to turn the tap on and get water from the plant?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've generally said 2027, right? We're in 2024 right now. We have an intention of site work starting as soon as we can get on that site, right? With approvals, we have an intention of drilling wells, which would hopefully start in the summertime. Some of those wells take longer to drill, which is why we want to get them going. We want to do some test wells, and then construction would start later in the year of the actual water treatment plant portions of it. But the intent is that, yeah, I think we have, what's the quarter?
Q1.
Q1 2027.
Okay. And this next question may be for Mr. Lowe, I'm not sure. What are we doing to upgrade the distribution system? What are we doing in addition to the water treatment plant? Are we taking a look at the distribution system for the whole city so that we know that it's as up to date as it can be?
Yeah, we have a hydraulic model that we've been updating. We've been looking at all the development projects. We've tabulated everything, and we're putting that into the model to see its impact on where we might need new distribution mains, etc. We also have a study going on looking at the condition of all the mains, and we have within our capital budgeting annual allocations to do renewal work on the water mains and actually on the wastewater collection system. So we have a constant stream of funds coming in, and wherever possible, we'll be doing it without digging up the road.
Great, thank you. And I think the last question I have might even be for Mr. Sherman, but maybe Mr. Lowe, I'm not sure. How are we paying for all this? And are we ready to pay for it? When do we make the decisions about where does the money come from? And a secondary to that, have we applied for grant funding to help us with this process?
I can answer on grant funding. We're looking to get grant funding for what's called the alternative water supply. Now that we have the permit to go into the Floridan, now we can apply for grants from the South Florida Water Management District, which should go some way towards covering the cost of that work. We can do it on an annual basis. We've also put in for grants for dealing with emerging contaminants. People have heard about PFAS. That we are shortlisted and prioritized for grant funding through the federal government, through the state funding system mechanism. So we're already working with them on that.
Great.
And also we are part of the court case that is going forward. And there's already $14 billion that's been got from the people who made all of these PFAS chemicals. We are someone who can get funding from that. So that's that part of it.
Great.
And Mr. Sherman, if you could answer the other part.
Sure.
Thank
Good evening, Randy Sherman, District Finance Director. Let me first start with, remember we had the $18 million of ARP money that we got from the federal government. So far to date, we have spent just over $6 million of that. The other $12 million, we still have, and that's really what's paying for the work of the folks standing behind me right now. As far as going forward with actually the plan, I think what I saw up there was September, October 24 for a guaranteed maximum price. Once we have that number in hand, then if you recall, we will come back and remodel all the rates and come back in and make those rate adjustments so then we can go out and get the plant financed.
Okay.
The rate increase we did last year was to cover operations. It was to provide some pay-as-you-go capital. But if you recall, that was labeled as an interim rate until we got the GMP. So we will, wait till we get that GMP. We'll get those all modeled. We'll update, again, all the population and growth statistics that we have at that time, and they will come back again and bring in a new rate structure. Again, we're looking at any scenario we can to finance this. So we're looking at a traditional revenue bond, as we've done in the past. We're looking at the cost containment bonds that the state legislature has passed and, is available to us. We'll look at the state revolving loan fund. We'll look at the state fund that they have, WIFIA fund. I knew I could come up with it. And as we go through all that, obviously we'll take out any grants that we have, and then we'll come back for the final package.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Have we lost out on getting any grants? Are there any grants that we could have applied for that we did not?
No, we haven't lost out on anything at this point. Again, until you know what you're borrowing, until you know what those costs are, makes it very, difficult to go forward on anything. But we have, again, monitored the federal dollars, monitored the state dollars, monitored the, the markets. We've had calls on the cost containment bond with other municipalities that may want to participate in such a program. So we're active, we're watching the markets, but no, we haven't missed any opportunities.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hotel. Mayor Felder?
Yes. Mr. Evans, when will the land lease agreement be done? Mr. Sherman, don't go anywhere.
Mr. Chair, if I may. That's an item that we're going to be looking to queue up, come before the city council as well as the utility special district. So that's going to be part of the site plan process and the approval process.
So that'll be done soon?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the projected cost of this plan? Just a projection.
Yeah, we've been carrying $200 million for a while. We believe that that's, certainly the top end for the plant itself.
So residents will be responsible for some of this?
They're going to be responsible for some of it. And if you recall, when we did the presentations over the summer, we did have some information about the cost of the plant. And what it was coming down to, even with the interest rates from last summer and $200 million, was about $5 per 1,000 gallons, of usage. That's pretty much what the costs were coming out in.
So what are the average a resident?
The average resident in Riviera Beach uses between $5,000 and $6,000 a month.
So what that costs what?
So that would make it, the cost of the plant to them on a monthly basis would be $25, $30. And that's, again, without any grants or,
Excuse me, I forgot the young lady's name. She said, so where we're at now, everything could be sped up when we get all this. So if it's sped up, what's the timeline that we can sell plant?
You just said it.
If we get the funding, everything goes through, what's the timeline?
Yeah, based on the 3 different starts this year that we're looking at, it would be Q1 2027 for the final water getting to the residents.
So question to you, Mr. Evans, what's our #1 priority right now?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Our #1 priority would be to effectuate the improvements to the water treatment plant and to move forward with the construction of this water plant.
That's our #1 priority.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and I agree. I think this should be our #1 priority because everything else that we're doing, I know the residents, I know for the safety, residents want clean water. So if this is our #1 priority, do we put everything else in the back and concentrate just on this right now until we get this done? Or till at least we get it going where we have the funding, we see the plant going up, and then we go to try to find out how we get a recreation department, how we get the city hall, how we get the police station, how we get the fire station. If this is the #1 priority, I really don't want to hear anything about anything else until I see this is our priority, and not that it's our priority now because we're having issues with our water plant in our community. Could we assure the community that we're going to take this as our #1 priority for the next year, and we'll put everything else on hold? Because this is the thing. we're going out for bonds that's going to cost the residents. This plan is going to cost the residents. And if we don't say what's important, what is the most important thing right now, it's water. And so I think that's what we should concentrate. Could we assure the community, you don't have to clap, but could we assure the community that that's, again, some of us ran on this in 2019, some of us ran on this before 2019. And this is what I don't want to happen is this issue has been here long before us. And we have an opportunity as a board because many of us are going to be gone. There's going to be new elected officials, there's going to be new city managers, there's going to be new, and we can have new fire stations, police stations, city hall, but the residents, we won't have clean water. And I think we need to take all of our efforts right now to just focus on that. All the other stuff will come. But if you're telling me this is our number one priority, this is what I want to hold us accountable for. And making sure, listen, I'm for a police station, I'm for a fire station, I'm for the recreation, trust me. But I think we have let this ball drop. And I just don't want to come up here shining the shiny nickel to show the residents that we're doing something. No, if we're going to do it, hold us accountable today. So we're not showing a shiny nickel and then, next week we're talking about something else that we need to be done. And this gets pushed back to the back. So this our number one priority. That's what I'm gonna advocate for. And if anything comes before this, I'm gonna speak out against it because I do believe that this is our number one priority. We ran on this and for some reason we kind of got off track. And if this was done 4 years ago, we stayed consistent, I think we would have been farther off. So now we're just starting last year or whatever, a couple of years ago. But I love to say if we can expedite this and get it done, when we see shovels in the ground, when we got the monies that we know how this is going to get paid, then we go to the next thing. And that's just my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Board members? Madam Clerk, do we have public comment on this?
No.
Public
comment cards.
Thank you. Vice Chair, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, of course, we all know that the water is our priority, but I do think that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think that we can ensure that the water safety and quality that we're getting in our houses right now is a priority, and the fact that we are looking towards a new water plant as a priority. I think those are two separate issues, but they're also together in the sense that we need safety on both ends. We want to ensure that the water that we're getting right now is safe, is drinkable, and that could last us until Q1 of 2027 to be able to start the new plant. I think that we can do those things simultaneously, but I also know that water, period, is our priority. I think that it's been our priority from the very beginning. And I do want to say that, yeah, maybe we have dropped the ball in some cases. We really have, in terms of moving this forward quickly. And I understand that there's an issue of money. And I understand that when we talk about raising water rates, that residents are going to cringe, because I cringe. It's more money that we have to pay, but somebody has to pay it. We have to be in a position where that we're paying for ourselves, but we're also at the same time looking to ensure that any grants, any opportunities that the city can gather to be able to help to offset the cost of this is something that we also consider to be a priority, because some of us cannot afford it. But we have to understand that it has to be something that we have to prioritize, that we have to prioritize the fact that we need a new water plant. That goes without question. We got to have it. We understand what has happened in the past, what has happened recently. We have to be on the path of a new water plant. There's just no way that we can prop this other water plant up until infinity. We're going to have to do these two things at the same time. And we're going to have to understand that it has to get paid for. And believe me, none of us want to spend more money, but we're going to have to pay for what it is that we want. And we want clean water, and it costs money. So I think that in the grand scheme of things, we have to be able to understand that we can do two things at one time, and that we also can make sure that at the same time, we're having clean drinking water as we speak.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Board Member Miller Anderson?
Yes, I agree. We do need to continue to make sure that we move forward. I mean, we should be able to do more than one thing at a time, as Ms. Lanier stated, but we all want clean water. I don't think that is the question. I think that the can has been kicked down the road for many decades now, so it is certainly important that we get this new construction going. As far as the other, we know we have crumbling infrastructure when it comes to our fire stations as well as the police department and city hall. So with getting those grants, we've all been to Tallahassee. We've all, been in contact with our lobbyists in DC or have gone up to DC. So we are all on board in terms of trying to make sure we can get funding to assist us in terms of our USD building and getting our clean water. So the effort is there. Unfortunately, because nothing was truly done about it for decades, it seems that now is being put on the backs of everyone at one time. That is not ideal, but we can't continue to go without it. The place is crumbling, and we can continue to put the money in it to maintain what we have, but understand that it's old. It has outlived its useful life. So being able to get that new water treatment plant is certainly top priority for us all. We've all walked the hills of Tallahassee to make sure that we could get what we needed. So doing that, as well as making sure that what we have now is safe, is a priority. But so are the other issues that we have ahead of us. So I know we have a team that should be able to continue to move forward, but at the same time, we should be able to address those other issues that we know are falling apart as well. All of them are falling apart. But we have to be able to balance it out so that we can get all of it done. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mayor, go ahead.
And again, I agree with my colleagues, but this is one of my concerns is we're putting on the ballot $115 million worth of bonds that's on this next election. We just was told we're going to have to bond this project. What's more important is what I'm saying. We have I think water is number one. And I think, we need to be talking about that and let the residents decide, do I want to participate in clean water right now, or do I want to participate in the new city hall? I think the residents needs to answer that question and not us just put on their back saying we can do two things at one time when the cost is going to be affecting them, right? I can guarantee you probably 90% of residents will say, okay, I understand it's going to cost me to have clean water. Could you look for other monies to build a city hall? I don't know. If that question, I don't know if Mr. Sherman's going to come up. If I ask the question, if the bonds don't go through, could we still build a police station? Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Just to provide a little bit of clarity with regards to the bond items, the three items that are being presented to the voters is the construction of a new fire station on Singer Island, a police station, and then $55 million to fund the recreational master plan. The city's is going out for a competitive solicitation for City Hall, and that's separate and apart. But what's being asked of the voters are the three items that I just communicated. The city has about $55 million worth of bonding capacity. Remember that the city's bonding capacity and the utility district's bonding capacity is a little different. From the standpoint is the city's bonding capacity, you would have to, the fire station is projected cost at about $25 million. The police station's cost is about $35 million, and then $55 million for recreation. So if the bonds were not to be successful or what have you, there would be a choice that this board effectively would have to make, and onto what facility they would look to fund. On the utility side, that's separate and apart because you would pledge your user fees or your rates for the purposes of facilitating the bond issuance for that. That bond issuance on the utility district side, that's authority that's vested solely with the city council or the utility district. As it relates to the bonding that is going, we're asking the voters to consider March 19th, you have provided that opportunity to the voters to make a decision whether they want to effectively levy a fee against themselves, tax themselves for the purposes of funding these particular items that are on the ballot. So, Mr. Sherman, is there any additional comments?
No, you answered that well, unless the mayor
Yeah,
has a
Mr. Chair.
follow-up.
So let me get this right. So if the bonds don't pass, we do have $55 million that we can spend.
Right.
And so the fire station is 25 million and the
Correct.
police station is 35 million.
Correct.
So technically we have the money to do those
You could get both of them.
without
within the
putting on the
55.
backs of the residents.
They
I mean, without getting another bond.
without a tax, without raising a fee, right? You have enough revenues to support $55 million.
So what I'm missing, because again, and I understand. I mean, if we already have that, see, this is what I said. We got to make water priority. We know they're going to be taxed again for water, right? If we have the money already to build a police station and a fire station, why are we putting that on the ballot to vote for? Is that extra money that we're going to be asking for?
So the reason you're going to the voters is because that would be tax-backed debt versus non-ad valorem revenue debt. And it would be far less expensive to do, tax-backed. I mean, the interest rates would be far better, far lower, so you could actually borrow that at a cheaper rate than if we went with the tax-backed debt. I'm sorry, the non-ad valorem backed debt. So that's why we've asked about it. It's not that you still can't do it. It's just cheaper if you do it this way.
But we can do
And
it.
You could still do it.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may,
Mr. Evans, go ahead.
but certainly if you were to facilitate utilizing the full bonding capacity, that is it. You would not be able to do any other projects associated with, you would have invariably maxed out your credit card. We have $98 million worth of roadway projects that are projects that once the pavement analysis and the stormwater and the water and sewer analysis is complete, you'll have a pavement plan that will actually, roadway reconstruction plan that will look to address some of the infrastructure. So invariably, that is why the plan that we have discussed as part of the budget discussions was to look at this option and alternative, because invariably, if you were to utilize the $55 million bonding capacity, there is a situation where you then do not do any projects for a significant amount of time. The other concern that I do have with respect to that is I think that's probably what the city may have done in the past. And that's why you had those lulls in no infrastructure, no investments, no development, because of those investments that happen at one period of time and then nothing happened subsequently. Because this is the city's first ever general obligation bond initiative that the voters are going to be asked. So we've never gone to do this, whereby other cities have done this a couple of times to address infrastructure issues. And Mr. Sherman, I don't know if you have any additional comments.
No, nothing to add.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Sherman, I did have a few questions for you. Revolving loan program. I understand that you said we're waiting on the GMP. Is it required to wait on the GMP to apply for the revolving loan program?
Well, you have to have a project to go forward. Right now, we really don't have a project. But what I want people to understand with the revolving loan program is, and I know that the federal infrastructure bill did provide some additional money into the program, but the revolving loan program is exactly that. You have a loan, you make a payment, now money's available and I can borrow it. And then, and it just keeps the money keeps revolving around. The process is competitive. And they do not give more than 25% of what they have available at any given point to one community. So even if they had $200 million, the most we could get is 50. So we still would have to go to the market and get the balance of it. So when you look at the $50 million and then it's, okay, what are the interest rates? What's the admin cost? What's the reporting cost? And you start going through that and you then have to say the interest rate that they can give you, does it really pay for itself versus what you can get for an interest rate over here. So until you actually have a project and go through the whole calculation and analysis, you don't even know if you want to apply for it. The other thing I would say, because you have to be careful, is because there are federal dollars in there, you have to do Davis-Bacon. You have to follow, I think it's the American Iron Workers Act or something like that. There are conditions on the dollars, which makes the project more expensive. So again, that's the whole analysis that you do. I have been following like Fort Lauderdale. They're out doing 400 million. And they do have a component that is SRF, because again, the analysis is there, but again, it only funds a certain portion of what we're looking for.
And being that we're kind of paying as we go, we're asking for about 6 million tonight. We've spent about 6 million already. With the revolving loan program, does that go against our bonding capacity?
Yes, because it's using the same revenue streams.
Can you double check on that? Because from what I've spoke to a few reps, and from my understanding, it does not go against the bonding capacity. And if the revolving loan program does not go against the bonding capacity, then that would give us the additional leverage that we need for support and funding. So if you can check on that. And then also you say when we have a program, once we executed the contract, didn't that create an actual project?
It doesn't, because I don't have that cost. I still need to know what the cost is.
I mean, we need the total cost, but essentially the total cost of the project is an estimated cost, and we've already spent money for a cost. So if there's a limited number that they're going to give, which you said is 20% or 25% of the total fund.
It's 25% of what they have available.
Of what they have
right?
available. So
Yeah.
either way, if we have a total cost of 50 million or 500 million, they can only lend what they have available.
Correct.
So to be clear, this could be using the 0.05% interest from that revolving loan program, that the funds are available, and it would not go against our bonding capacity. So just to get clarity, if you
I
can't
will
follow up with
get
that, and
clarity
then send
on
me out a
that.
notice for that and email
Yeah.
that to me. I just want to be clear because I want to take advantage of every program. When I went to Washington, that was one of the concerns and questions that was addressed. This was actually brought to the dais a few years ago where we talked about the revolving loan program, and I wanted you to dig into that because right now you're asking for money tonight, and we've already spent 6 million for this project. So I want to look at every avenue possible. Second question is going to be contract negotiations, whether it's going to be Susan, Michael, or Steve, if you guys could answer my question for me. The last water plant that you guys actually developed, built from inception, approval by board to contract negotiation, how long ago, where was that located?
I give an example, but so we did one for Palm Beach County, the Green K project, which the GMP has been executed in December. Those contract negotiations, I think, took about 6 months,
Okay.
6 to 9 months. We're currently working with Delray in contract negotiations.
Mhm.
Some of the differences is if you have a standard contract, it usually goes quicker. Because standard contracts have usually been approved by multiple entities, procurements, agencies look at them, utilities, and contractors and firms like that. In this instance, we kind of started from scratch a little bit. So it did take a little bit longer, but yeah, it's usually, I would say 6 months is an average.
Good.
Would you agree?
I had an AIA document. It was less than 3 months.
3 months? So 3 months, average 6 months.
And
Yeah, a standard document, I would agree. A standard document could be as quick as 3 months, and a non-standard document is usually is 6 months. Is that?
Okay, so
It
one of
also
the
depends
points.
on the size too.
I'm sorry?
It also depends on the size of the project. So
Of
the
course.
AIA was 50 million. Your projects were probably 100 million, right?
And this is a much larger project at this current time. So 12 months is not out of the question, but it is on the longer side of negotiation. And the reason I bring that up is to my mayor's point. While I agree with my colleague that many projects have been kicked down the can's been kicked down the road for a long time, and we're addressing that infrastructure and concerns. It's that I don't want us to bite off more than we can chew, but I do want us to be aggressive with determining and finalizing the projects we're working on. 12 months to negotiate the contract has also caused for our GMP to go through the roof. So if we would have got this done within a 3 to 6 month period, that might have allowed for us to negotiate a water plant at 120 million, 130 million versus the 200 million price point that we're at now. So that's going to more lean on our staff because it is a bigger project to negotiate, which I understand, but we have to be intentional and aggressive with those negotiations. So I think that's where my mayor's concerns are, is that we have to be laser focused. And I need Mr. Evans and Mr. Lowe, I need you both to be laser focused on getting this done. We can't have any excuses about anything that's going on with the project. And if 12 months is the time frame that it takes to negotiate and other agencies are doing it in 3 to 6, we're below standard. So that's not acceptable for my community to be below standard. Last question I have, and then I believe my colleague has
last
one more. I have one more question as well. I believe Mayor Felder asked about the land lease agreement, how long that's going to take, Mr. Evans? Did we get an answer for that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we actually have an attorney, Ms. Hepburn. Ellie is actually working, Helprin is actually working on that as we speak. So that should be queued up to come before the board here pretty quickly. So staff is already drafting the particular documents that would have to come before the district and invariably the city council.
Can we get a time frame, please?
I can provide that to you in writing. I don't have that, the information from the attorney right now, so I can see where she is and then provide that to you in writing.
Okay, I think that we need to go ahead and set something because we need to have this back before our next UD meeting. We need to make sure that we just are being very clear with timelines. I don't want us to wait or just say that we'll get back to us or that we'll figure it out later. Every single meeting, we need an update and we need a timeline set so that we can know exactly. This agency has come in and they've given us a clear timeline, Q1 2027. We're not going to be the reasons that the ball's dropped. So if we can, Mr. Evans, you can't get it back to us, but if we can have that queued up by our next UD meeting so that we can move forward. I'm not sure how feasible that is, but if you can check with legal, give us an update tomorrow. But my goal is to have it by the next UD meeting. The last question, and that was next to the question. The question that I have is for local participation. Mr. Sherman, you said we spent about $6 million so far to date on this project. We're asking for an additional 5.9 tonight on the agenda as one of the items. Currently, where did that $6 million come from? Did that come out the ARC money?
That was it.
Okay. If either Michael or Susan or somebody from the team, can you talk to me about how much local participation out of that $6 million has been done, and what does that look like for that $6 million that was spent?
I don't have a percentage off the top of my head, but we do have Brown Electrical Solutions is on the team. They're local.
They
We have-
participated in that initial $6 million expenditure?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We also have HBC Engineering.
Thank
They're
you.
a local firm. We also have Radice. Radice is there off of Blue Heron. They're doing the boring for the project to ground penetrating radar.
Yes. So if we can, anytime you guys want to give constant updates, that's going to be my priority. And I'm sure for the rest of this board, what is going back into the community. So making sure that the benefits and the locals are actually benefiting from this $200 million we're spending. Because if we're spending this amount of money in the community for the community, it needs to be built by the community. So that is what we're looking for. If you can give those updates on a regular basis and have those readily available. Dr. Botel, go ahead.
Yes, you took one of my questions, and I appreciate your asking it. Now I don't have to. A question about the longevity of the system, of the plant. 50, is it going to be 50 years from now that there'll be a group of people sitting up here building a new one, 75? And a second question, we're about 39,000 people in Riviera Beach now, but we know about 1,000 people move to Florida every day. What's the ultimate capacity of this plant? Will it be able to handle the growth of the city as we go forward?
I can handle the capacity issue. We're allowing for this plant to go up to at least 16 million gallons per day. We have a fairly high per capita consumption at the moment. A lot of pressure on us from the management district. And I think looking at the profile of what's going to be built, I think we're going to see that go down as well. So if you've got your per capita consumption going down, even as your people go up, then you're much steadier in terms of your overall demand.
And in terms of the number of years this plant will be in operation, guesstimate?
I mean, I will say that in general, the industry says 50 years. The benefit of the membrane skids is that you can maintain a skid and just change out the membranes, right? So there's been a lot of innovation in the membrane designs over the last 20-something years, and we expect more innovation as some of these emerging contaminants or rules have come out. And so what you'll more likely see is investment in membrane replacement to either help you increase capacity if needed, or to remove other constituents or components that either are not known or currently regulated. And so that is a benefit of this type of facility. It generally, the majority of the components can last longer than 50 years, as most of you know from other plants around the area. I will say it is going to require maintenance. It's going to require staff, and it's going to require staying on it. That is usually what kills any plant, is the lack of that, and what you end up seeing is costs increase significantly if that's not occurring. So part of really what we'll want to do in the latter part before we really get this transitioned over is making sure that operational funds and the staffing and the personnel is appropriate and positioned and ready to go so that there are no gaps, right? That'll help the longevity of the system.
She just said something that made me think of another question. So will the number of workers at the utility district stay the same? Does this plant require fewer workers, more workers? And what are we doing to train people to take these positions? Will we be able to put something in place that will provide some staff development, if you will, some way to get people trained up to take these jobs?
I think the best way I could answer that is to say that if there's going to be a change in the emphasis of some of the tasks, some of the things we might be doing now won't be done, but there'll be other things. So I'm not necessarily seeing a dramatic change overall in the staffing, but in what the individuals are actually doing. There's plenty of training opportunities that we're looking at beyond the specific training in this plant, but there are already organizations that provide training on how to run membrane plants and the like, and we will be making a use of those systems as well as what the team will be doing in terms of specific training on the plant itself.
We have talked to municipalities in the area, and it's a small industry, it's a small little world, and anytime a new membrane plant started up, they've leveraged their staff to another membrane plant. So we'll look to do that to make sure that the staff goes and works or sees another membrane facility and is able to do more hands-on. And so as we move forward, we'll make sure that training occurs as well, coordinating.
Some of our existing staff have already worked on membrane plants.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lowe. Board members? Mr. Lowe, one last question for you. What is the age of our current water plant?
1958.
And 1958, so
that's when it first started.
70
yes.
years?
Yes.
It'll be 70 years in 4 years. And then even with the brand new facility, life expectancy, I believe Ms. Susan said, is about 50 years with a brand new facility built in 2024. So residents, a lot of the issues we're having with our water plant is because we have a 70-year-old water plant. And we're definitely going to have to address that. We're trying to do that in an expedited fashion. But this water plant is about 20, 30 years past due. So a lot of the issues that a lot of my board is seeing and the residents are seeing is because of the age of this water tank and water plant. And that's what we're trying to address. And that's why we've been here. So Susan, Michael, and Steve, guys, thank you. You guys really kind of stood in the line of fire for us with Haskell. And I see some of our local partners, Brown Electric is here, and some of the other team members from the development. Thank you all. We're ready to move forward, but we need to do this in an expedited fashion. So we will be ready on weekly meetings and updates to make sure this moves at an expedited rate. And if anything is done or not being done, we need to be notified. Staff is going to do their very best part to stay on top of it, but we also need to know as well, just so that we can keep our residents informed. We don't want to be in the blind, so that this plant can be done, hopefully sooner than first quarter 2027. But thank you guys for the presentation. It was amazing, and thank you for being here tonight. Miss? No. Skip the agenda. Is that good? Okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and, Ms. Hall will go ahead and do public comments, and then we have 2 agenda items. Public comment shall begin at 5:45 unless there's no further business of the City Council, which in the event it shall begin sooner. In addition, if an item is being considered after, then comments from the public shall begin immediately after the item is concluded. Please be reminded the City Council Board has adopted rules of decorum governing public comment during public meetings, which is posted at the front desk. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, the City Council Chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the meeting, from the building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chair, we have 14 public comment cards. The first would be Glenn Spiritus, followed by Scott Lewis, and then Cindy March.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome, Mr. Spears.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and City Council, Mayor, City staff, City Manager, neighbors. This is a very interesting presentation, but the real question is, we've known since 2013 that our city water plant was in cardiac arrest. That's a comment from the independent engineers that did that report in 2013 and the mayor back in 2016. So the question is, why wasn't anything done during all that period? You know, the cost of construction has gone up in the last 3 years over 100%. We're talking about a $200 million plant. So it could have been a $100 million plant. It could have been a $60 million plant if we would have moved quicker. I see that you hired this firm, you chose this firm in 2021, but you didn't sign a contract with them until 2022. You didn't give them a notice to proceed until 2023. That's 3 years' time right there. This plant could have been pretty close to operating, if not already operating. I suggest, by the way, that you do look into the state's revolving loan program. You know, the vice president made an announcement yesterday. They just pumped in billions and billions of dollars into this program on top of their regular budget. So the first one in is the first one that's going to get this money. I should add that that money is at about 2% interest, and no, it does not count towards your bonding limit. It's excluded from your bonding. That goes for the utility district as well if it's separate. You also are eligible up to 20% outright grant from the state under this program. So I suggest May is the time that you could submit whatever you have right now and go into this program, get yourself in. Any grants you get from outside, those get deducted from the revolving loan program. They don't charge you for it. But I suggest that you get in May and you take advantage of when the money is at its fullest, which is going to be now because the federal government is pumping that money into each state. So please don't wait again. Don't cost us another $100 million. Please act quickly and take advantage of what's out there now. And by the way, it's 2% interest is what they're giving at right now on average. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Next is Scott Lewis, Cindy March, and Michael Jordan.
Welcome, Mr. Lewis.
Hi, Scott Lewis, Wellness Circle. You know, a whole lot of millions of dollars being talked about tonight. And I definitely wanted to point out just what the previous speaker said about November 21 is when this was approved. And y'all talking about how fast you're moving on stuff. 2 years is not fast, especially when I got poo-poo in my water that I'm drinking. That's not fast enough. So please don't make excuses for what's happened in the past 4 years or 5 years or 10 years that I just heard. What really concerns me is it feels like the taxpayers are going to get hammered by a bunch of surprises. And that's what scares me as a taxpayer and a resident. Because I like what I started to hear from the mayor about slow down on this $115 million because, gee, there could be another $200 million. And oh, wait a minute, I just heard a few minutes ago about a $100 million paving project. God knows the castle you're getting ready to build for City Hall, 150,000 square feet. What's that going to cost the taxpayers? We don't know what all this capital money that you're spending, which is our money. It's not your money. You are a custodian. We have to trust you. Do you think anybody here trusts you after what's happened with the water utility last June? I know I came here in September. It's the only time I came last year because of the 27% water increase. And Ms. Botel, you told me it's fine. It's great. This is what we need to do. Someone here knew when I was complaining about that there was crap in my water and I was drinking and they shut up about it. I don't want them shutting up. I want to know. And I want to know what projects you're spending my money on. I just listened to Mr. Sherman talk about how you need all this process and plans and everything before the water utility goes in. But I was at the bond meeting, one of them, and Mr. Sherman's telling us, well, Parks and Rec, that really isn't flushed out enough for going to Wall Street. They won't know what that's for. We're going to have to flush that out later. What? The vote's in 3 weeks. Wait till you slow this train down. Get some plans on the fire station. Why do you have to have the most expensive fire station out of 80 fire stations in this county in this neighborhood right now? Why? We don't need it. We don't want it. I don't want to be more than Palm Beach, the town of Palm Beach, building a fire station for $17 million, renovating a 100-year-old building. I don't want to be part of that mess here. Thank you.
Sir.
Cindy March, Michael Jordan, and Chandra Stringer.
Welcome, Ms. Cindy March.
Good evening, Council. I'm Cindy March. When I walked in the door, and no disrespect to the lady who's an employee probably here at the city of Revere Beach, when I walked in the door, she addressed me with this. Her question was, what color you want the water plant? You know what I said to her, and it wasn't sarcastic, it was honesty. I don't care what color you putting on water plant, I want clean water. I want safe water. Enough is enough. Doug, me and you had a conversation. Thank you for meeting with me. Y'all can say what you want to say about Cindy, but I'm a bully. No, I'm an advocate for the city of Revere Beach, where I love to live, work, and play. I'm upset right now, and my voice is crackling because enough is enough. Enough is enough. Stop putting politics before the people. You all work for us. We don't work for you all. You all laugh. You all picked at this man, Dr. Spiritus, 3 years ago when he came up here with an idea of getting this water plant done with 0.5. If y'all don't put these politics games away, we're going to lose the city and we're going to move out the city where we love to live, work, and play. Enough is enough. Doug, you all need to come together. If I don't miss nobody tonight in this meeting, I miss Roderick McCoy because he's very transparent. He's very knowledgeable. Number one, you need to get rid of them jobs that Evans got, them multiple jobs. Deidre had no business being no utility person when she's already his assistant as a city manager. 2 fire stations, nowhere for the kids to go, shooting every other week or every other day in the city of Revere Beach. When it get to be one of y'all kids, you all gonna wish you all had a parks and recreation for these kids to go to. I was campaigning yesterday, and I'm not a racist person. A Hispanic lady had a child that was a little young black 2-year-old child. She took the time to stop and talk to me. And you know what her concern was? She had to go to North Palm Beach to sign her kid up for parks and recreation because you got a fire station over there, the Wales. You got one here. Why didn't you put it on Singer Island? If we don't get unified in this city, we're going to lose our community. Enough is enough. I'm going to knock on these doors so I can't knock on them no more. March 19th, it's time for a new era, and it's time for a change. Because Shama, you've been here 9 years. Botel, you've been here 6 years. All you haven't done, you don't need to do no more.
Michael Jordan, Chandra Stringer, and Margaret Shepard.
Welcome, Mr. Jordan.
All right, how's it going? I want to be respectful and say hello to everybody. First of all, I want to commend the mayor. I agree with you. The priority and the business first is about the water. I'm not concerned about a fire station. I'm not concerned about a beautiful building. I'm concerned about the water that we have to bathe in, that we have to drink, and that the grandparents that's raising the children that may not be able to get to the meeting or even have access to look at it on their phones or on the internet that's accessing this water, it's an endangerment to them. So I say, come and let us reason together. We need you all, and you all definitely need us, okay? And like they said before, we voted you in, and if you don't do the right thing, we'll vote you out. And like I said, it's not to be disrespectful to anybody, because I respect everybody. Finance manager, you need to look at restructuring that and putting a new person in that position. Utility manager, same thing. I'm not saying fire anybody. I'm not saying get rid of anybody, but you need to find somebody that's going to be responsible. And you all, as being the council, have to be honest with the residents and the citizens of Riviera Beach. First of all, we should be issued an apology in writing with the actual report that you all received about the water attached. You understand what I'm saying? Because you could tell me anything verbally, but I go by what's in black and white, because that's the Bible, that's the book, that's the law. And we need to get it together. And I said we, community and the council, so that we can move this city forward and stop being able to come in here and cut the tension with your finger. Because like I said, I don't have a personal problem with anybody. It's about the water, and we need to get it fixed. And if you can't get it fixed, you need to move on.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Jordan.
Shanda Stringer, Margaret Shepherd, followed by Derek Burns.
Welcome, Ms. Stringer.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, the Council at Large, Mayor Felder, City Manager Evans. I concur with most of the comments that have been made tonight. It's a lot of money being discussed as if it's pennies on a dollar. Millions, $200 million, and we only have 12 million left. And grants, if they're not approved in the bank, we don't have it. So we got to start facing reality. And truth, I'm gonna say we probably need to recite it like we do the Girl Scout pledge, because I don't see that. And in his absence, you know, you can say what you want to say. He may need some counsel or whatever, but I just want to know if he had never brought that subject up, how many people actually go to the city's website to read something on a day-to-day basis, like we check our emails? Would the residents really have known? And it's so ironic that we were told at the debate Monday night that we were going to get some answers. And what we got tonight was a whole little dog and pony show on a presentation, telling us out of $18 million, we've already spent 6. They want another 6. And we need about approximately 200. You guys, the math ain't mathing. The math is not mathing. And stop acting like because someone objects to something, they don't like you. No, we want a whole healthy life. And I don't care if it's $25 or $50. Try not having enough money to meet your monthly expenses. $25 is a lot of money. When you have a job and you know you got security, you can talk like that. But when you know that your bills and your income is bottom side up, $25 means a lot. And I agree with Councilwoman Lanier. Yes, we do need to pay, but we need to know what we're paying for. And before we can start paying for anything, we need to look at a budget. Mr. Evans said last year, October, November, oh, I'm gonna bring you guys to the capital projects. You're gonna know where everything is. I have yet to see it. Look at the budget. Show me actual, pending, adjustment, variables. Stop acting like when people ask you guys questions, they're your enemy. We have a brain, and I said every time I come up here, and we can think. And stop acting like we don't. You look at us like we're crazy. I wish you could go back and watch some of the videos, because people screenshot them and send them to me. I'm like, yeah, they was ignoring us. But it's okay. Because just like I tell you all the time, and I'm gonna say it as I take my seat, I thank you for your service. But remember, one day you won't sit in those seats, and you don't know what life is gonna happen to you. So as you're making decisions for people on fixed incomes, people that are still trying to get the appropriate employment, think about that, because it could be your day. Thank you.
Next is Margaret Shepherd, Derek Burns, and Bill Hester.
Welcome, Ms. Shepherd.
Good evening to everyone, to the Honorable Mayor of this great city, and to all of you in your respectful places. Mr. Mayor, you could have kept on going. You made sense. And with our speaker that just left the podium, let me be clear on one thing. As I was reading some of my notes from the day, it was talking about the local allocations on the American Rescue Funds. A lot of cities got free money. And someone was asking, why do we not get free money? You have a PSA, your rep, that you all should be sitting down talking to. Not Terrence Bailey. You're spending a whole lot of money and you need a second opinion about how you spend their money. I've been here almost 50 years. It's been the same old soup. And you're saying it takes time. Well, how long is time? How long is time? You're going to put that on the backs of my children. And I'm appalled that you relentlessly say it was nothing wrong with the money. I mean, with the water. And let's go back. It is a money operation that should have been taught. I'm nothing to do with the fire department, nothing to do because we need that. But the main thing that should have been said is about the water. Let me clear something really quick. You are in a electoral year. You don't know who's going to have those seats. And what you're doing is you're putting them in a stressful moment, and they have to come in and hit the ground running. Well, how in the hell are they going to know what's going on? They have no idea because now they have to get somebody to take them right up to the water and explain to them just how this city operates. Shame on us for getting here and allow people that don't even live in the city. They don't live here. And now you want to come and tell me how much this facility is going to cost. Absolutely, this should have been in the making a long time ago. We should not be discussing it. We should put everything on the back burner and start this plant moving ASAP. It's a shame we wait till the election comes and then we're going to start talking about what all we want to do. Well, God, oh my God, I'm a church girl, so I won't say that. But what the heck are we waiting on? You said 2027, and then their water bill is going up. I'm just perturbed that we're even having this conversation. I'm appalled that we're having this conversation. I'm appalled that we're looking at something where people don't even live in this city. Thank you.
Here comes Ms. Shepherd.
Next is Derek Burns, Bill Hester, and Mrs. Williams.
Welcome, Mr. Burns.
Good evening to each and every one of your respective places. I worked for the city from 2008 to 2018, and I must say that we really have a serious problem with the water as a detailer. There's a lot of things that's been coming out of our water that I had to use acid to take off because soap and water wouldn't take it off. There was times when I was called when they was putting lime in the water at the water plant that busted and the dust flew all over the cars from the police station all the way to the front of the municipal. I had to call some help to come in to clean that off the cars. But the problem with that lime was it wouldn't rinse off. I had to literally wash it off with soap and water in a short period of time. Can you imagine what that's doing on the inside of our bodies? In a short period of time, about a 30-minute span of something hitting the car, powder, dust, wouldn't rinse off. It stayed stagnated on the cars. So I had to call the city and let them know, listen, it's going to cost more than I anticipated because this has to be washed. I can't just like rinse them off because it won't come off. And I was told it was lime. You really need to see the water at my house, Jonathan. I want to sit with you tomorrow and talk with you about the water now, because before I bring news media in, the water, you need to really see what it's really doing. Everything's contaminated, rust out at my house with the water. I bought a house in River Beach 23 years ago. So, Mayor, I appreciate you telling the truth. We need to focus strictly on the water because I've been buying water for the last 7 years, drinking water, and I spent thousands of dollars buying water to drink. Scared the baby in it because I had a rash last year on my leg, and I told the doctor, I don't know where this rash come from, but it had to come from the water because the doctor gave me some cream to treat it, and the rash did go away But I'm in fear. I really in fear about this water thing. It's a serious matter that we really need to address. 70 years old, that's just too long. And we all as residents just got a letter last year that they went up on our water bills because they're supposed to build a water plant. So you already increasing our water bill, but yet we're not getting nowhere with a water plant. So what's next? What's the next hidden agenda? What's the next foolery, trickery? Thank you.
Any comments?
Bill Hester, Mrs. Williams, and Lloyd Brown.
Good evening, Mr. Hester.
Good evening. Good evening, City Council and my fellow citizens. It's already been said, maybe more ways than one, that two things are almost certain in a project of this size. Number one, the cost is going to increase over time. Number two, these projects are rarely completed on time. So that 2027 date, and with all respect to the designers, may be a pipe dream. So that brings me to, what are we going to do in the meantime? Our current systems and water plant is substandard, has been for over 10 years. And in this time period, it's not going to get any better. So what is the plan? How are we going to notify our citizens of the quality of the water between now and 2027? Can we have an alert system, some mechanisms put in place to where the citizens can be aware of the quality of the water on a monthly basis? And that's all that I'm really concerned with. Between now and 2027, what are we going to be drinking? That's what we need to decide. How are we going to know what we're drinking? And we need to know today and until 2027. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mrs. Williams, Lloyd Brown, and R. Thompson.
Good evening, Ms. Williams. How are you?
Good evening to my chairman, my mayor, my city manager. I hope y'all don't get mad at me when I start saying something here. And to the citizens of Riviera Beach. I'm gonna say about this water bill first, then I'm gonna go through my notes. No. My son, he lived right down the street there. He got a water bill for 1 month, $547 and some cent. So I went over there and I asked them, how could this be? And this, I guess it's from the utility or whatever. They told me that when you got an electronic thing that read our meters, right? They said it wasn't working good, but he got a bill for $77 1 month. Then he got another one for $70. Now they doubling up. They say he's going to get a bill in about another week for $200 and something. I said, what, you want him to pay $1,000 for this water? And y'all running unclean water. You need to stop it. And I want to ask the city manager, maybe the mayor be included in it. What did y'all get from President Biden for the infrastructure for every state that asked for it? The governor, DeSantis, challenged the governor from California. He say what we got here. How much y'all got for them? You be saying these water thing for 2015, whatever, 16, 17, 18, 19, all the way up here. Every time it comes for election, y'all saying, we got all these new people coming here, we gonna do this and we do that. You don't do nothing. You sure you get the votes. And I want you to stop that. And I have to give credit to the security. We got security, Miss Lanier. They're all out there. So we want to know what did we getting from the federal government, from the governor, Mr. Glenn said he came try to offer this to y'all 3 years ago, how we could have did this plant and everything, but y'all rejected him. I know you did because he was running against Miss Botel. But what we need to do, I think y'all be cheating him on this time here when I get up here. But I want to know how every year, 3 years, you come up with all these projects, all this stuff gonna be. I can't remember, these are people y'all that's coming up with all the millions and millions. You remember one year, about 3 years ago, they spent $50 million talking about fixing a posture out there on that water thing right there. Well, that's 50 and some odd. I know I got to go. But how much more y'all gonna spend? Get it right and do it right.
Lloyd Brown, R. Thompson, and Mrs. Delsa Brooks Hamilton.
All I can say is hello. And you know what? A friend of mine asked me, he said, when the last time we had a fire in Riviera Beach? I said, oh, I don't know, I forgot. And you know, you build that big old fire station over there. And I mean, here it is, we drinking water that's not even suitable for my dogs. They complain about it and they don't even know how to talk. And you know, it's a shame that you would put all that money in a fire station when most of these houses in Riviera Beach are rented. So, you know, I just grab my stuff if I was in a rented house and just get out of there and let it burn. I mean, honestly, they don't own nothing. You build a big old fire station when you know that you needed a water plant. It doesn't make sense. I mean, it really doesn't make sense. If you can tell me that makes sense, and then you wonder why I wear headphones, because it's like I'm listening to a scratch record every time I come over here. Just keep repeating, keep repeating. So I can play Grand Funk Railroad and hear it all the way through clearly. I put these on because I don't want to hear that BS. And you know another thing that makes me so mad? When I looked at that lady water bill, $500 and something, her son. I mean, what she watering y'all plants around the city too? What she watering 8th Street? Your son watering 8th Street too? He must be. I mean, think about it. You build a damn big fire station when you knew 7 months ago that the water was screwed up. And I mean, I can understand, because in school, when a girl got pregnant, everybody knew about it. Now, you trying to tell me that some of y'all just finding out? I mean, and y'all hang around each other, because I done seen a couple of people talking in Walmart to each other, which is something they say is against the sunshine thing. And you know, that's a shame. And let me tell you something. There's no game on tonight. So I will be here for the comments in the next go round, because I got something for y'all. And you're going to understand what I mean, because I believe fair is fair. And if a police going to stop me for doing 90 and a 95, I mean, you know, okay, I'll bring him back since I got 35 seconds. If two guys riding down the street and one of them is a friend of the officer, you think it's right for the officer to let the friend go, and this other man who might be 1 mile over the speed limit, he gonna lock him up, put him out? I mean, I think you kind of know what I'm talking about, sir. I'm not even gonna call your name, but I'm waiting to get up here for you on the public comments. I don't have no game or nothing. I can stay.
Thank you for your comments.
Next is R. Thompson, Mrs. Delsa Brooks, and Fane Lozman.
Good evening. The problem that I'm having, everyone is talking about the quality of water, which is it's pretty bad. But building this plant, what would be the PSI leaving the plant to the mains in the streets? Anyone know? Anyone knows? PSI leaving the plant? Pound per square inch? Anyone know? What I'm getting at, once it leaves the plant and it goes into the water mains, our water mains, our valves, our hydrants, I've never seen a hydrant ran. I don't know the chlorine residual. I have a hydrant right across the street from me. It's been inoperative for about 4 or 5 months. I haven't seen a hydrant ran in no streets in Riviera Beach. So, I mean, I don't think our valves work. If you have to cut off, we have a broken water main, and we turn off a valve, we don't know where they are. So the pipes we have in the streets, in the water mains, asbestos, ductile iron, and they're how old? So what I'm getting to is when the water runs through the water mains and all that old piping that we have in the streets, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to do any good. So it's a lot of things we need to work on. Besides, we need to change these pipes in the streets. You need to change the water mains. You need to get PVC down there. Get rid of the asbestos and the ductile iron. That's what's harming a lot of people. I need to get together with the mayor and who's in charge of the district in Fair Gardens and Parson Heights area. And you know what I'm talking about. You need to get together, people. You really do. There's a lot of harm being done. Not only from the plant itself, just the mains in the street. They all broken up, beat down. So you need to work on a few things, a lot of things.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Mrs. Del Fane Lozman, and the last speaker will be Mrs. Mary Brown.
Good evening, everyone, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, Council, Mayor, and City Manager. My name is Delcia Brooks Hamilton, and I love Riviera Beach. I have been coming to the city for quite some time. I have lunch or dinner here at least 3 times for the week, out of the week. And I also go to church here. My church is United Overcomer Church of God, and it's in Riviera Beach. Now, I really got very angry to find out that the water that I have been drinking has fecal matter in it. And the worst part of it is that, you know, if you live in a municipality, they're supposed to notify you if they find something that's in the water that is not good for you. They're supposed to notify you and let you know that you have to boil your water. So somebody did not notify the community that the water was bad and you should not drink it, you should boil the water. Now, I've lived in many different municipalities, and every time that there was a situation with the water, they would always notify the residents. So shame on the person that's in charge that did not notify us, even if I don't live here in the city, but I'm looking to move to Riviera Beach, but still, I do drink the water when I come here. When I have dinner at Rafiki Tiki, I drink the water. When I have lunch there, I drink the water. So it is really a shame that no one has notified the community. It is unacceptable. Another thing is that, you know, Riviera Beach has a habit of kicking the ball down the road. Now, if they knew that the water plant needed to be replaced, why did they invest so much money in this building and not in the water plant, which is so essential to, you know, to our lives and to live in? You know, the kids have to bathe in the water. A lot of people don't have the additional money to buy, you know, filtered water. So therefore, or even to buy a filtration system for the whole house, or even one for the shower, you know, so the kids have to rely on drinking water from the faucet, you know, and that is ridiculous. You know, a lot of times when the kids go to the hospital, nobody knows what's wrong with them, but yes, it's the water that they're drinking. I currently have friends that, you know, were told that, you know, there was fecal matter in the water that they were drinking. And when they called the health department, they told them, you know, it wasn't so. You know, so it's ridiculous that you guys have to actually, you know, lie to us and not tell us the truth as to what's going on. Now, I'm a small business owner and I'm looking to build my restaurant on the marina, you know, and I need to make sure that the water is fixed
Thank you for your
before,
comments,
you
Ms.
know,
Brooks.
before I do some business with the city.
Lozman and Mary Brown.
Welcome, Mr. Lozman.
Good evening. The first thing this board should do tonight is as soon as you get a positive test, you put out an alert. You let everybody know. This idea that we can wait around and it may be a false positive and do it a couple days later, by that time people could die. Willis Williams used to be the dock master at the Riviera Beach Marina with a friend of mine up until he passed away. He told me elderly residents on the west side he believed died drinking contaminated water, because he had 6 houses that he rented around town, and he said it was unaccountable. They got very bad dysentery. He thinks the water caused it. You know, Mayor, why don't you do something concrete and send around a flyer to all the residents on the west side and say, did anybody get sick from the water, and investigate if your voters drank contaminated water and died from it, or their grandparents died from it. There needs to be some accountability. You just don't walk away from that. Botel, Kashama Miller Anderson, you were elected officials when this scandal went on. You should be replaced. One of the things about Sammy Brown, I thought he was a total jerk, but he agreed with me that Jonathan Evans should be replaced. People that screw up don't get second and third and fourth chances on something like this. We need to replace these people and get some new people in here that have the leadership skills to tackle this head on. You know, it's interesting, when I did not get along with Dawn Pardo. So when Botel came in to take her seat, we talked about, you know, what should be done in this city. And she told me point blank, Singer Island should become its own city. And I said, they tried that 20 or 30 years ago. It would never happen because the water comes from Riviera Beach. She said, nobody on Singer Island drinks that water. She said, we'll go to North Palm Beach and get it from there. So there's an attitude that water was never a big deal to Singer Island residents, and that's why it never happened. The marina was a big deal to them. They wanted to make sure tens of millions of dollars got pumped in the marina, spending millions of dollars to target me in my Supreme Court cases. That was a priority. But people on the mainland, we don't care about them when it comes to water, because we're going to try to become our own city like they did in the 1980s. You know, so who did the utility director report to? He reports to Jonathan Evans. Evans went public saying the water was safe, the water was safe. You can look at yellow water. I'm not going to drink that. That probably came out of the sewer plant, not the water tap. You know, people don't want to drink yellow water. You go to cities around this country that I've had a chance to go, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Reno, Las Vegas. It's not yellow. That's not normal to have water the color of that seat that you're sitting on. You got to demand accountability. Demanding accountability is a change. At least Mayor Masters fired the utility director. Why don't you do that and start fresh? Get a new city manager, a new utility director, and 2 new people sitting on that council up there.
Mary Brown.
Good evening, Ms. Mary Brown, Riviera Beach, to the chair and to the board and to the general public here. We did not get into this overnight. I hear about fecal. Ms. Brown has been an advocate in this city as well as all over the counties. And number one, when Liz Wade and the previous boards that were sitting there, we made mention about the water. Oh, Mary Lee, because see, we're family like that. So see, my name is Mary Lee. Mary Lee, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Now just think now. She's passed and gone on. And the other administrations, I'm going to say kudos to this board here because you as a board, you are finally moving some things in the right direction. You always going to get all of this wind all in your ears. But you are moving some things in the right direction. We look at this marina down here. We had to clean up the marina. I hear fecal. That water there was infested with fecal down there. Look at it now. We had to take an upbuilding down there to clean up that. We did not get into this overnight, and we are not going to come out of it overnight. But if we are on the pathways to doing more than every board that Ms. Graham has stood up in and spoke in has ever done. And Ms. Graham is going to say that. Your main compartments in every city consist of your police department, your fire department, your utility district, and your government functioning buildings. Look how long this city has been built, way back there in the early 1950s. Everything has a lifespan. Your infrastructure here, as we sit on here before they did this, the pipes and everything had to be done. It's a process, and we are working in these processes stages here. No, I do not drink your water. It is a known fact. Over 30-some years, Ms. Graham has not drank their water, and I say thank you for my husband for replenishing our pipes. This infrastructure here is built on iron-rusted pipes, and everything settles in. So everything has been piecemeal, until we cannot piecemeal anymore. So when we talk about the parks, I heard somebody say something about the park. You got bonds on there for your park, the fire stations, as well as your police department. We can't keep having it every way except for the right way.
Thank you for your comments, Ms.
And we
Brown.
all going to have
Thank
to
you for your
pay
comments,
our
Ms. Brown.
part. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Evans, Mr. Evans, would you like to address any of the,
Mr. Chair, I'd ask for the utility district director to address the comments during part of his utility district comments at the end.
okay, and in addition to that, if we can, residents, the noise does carry, so please, we're trying to continue with the meeting. And Mr. Evans, if we can, there was a lot of concerns in reference to the condition of the water. If we can get a report during your discussion by the utility district director and executive director at the end during discussion items.
Mr. Chair, we can ask for the team to come up and provide an update.
Thanks, sir. Going to regular agenda, 7A.
Item 7A, Resolution 004-24UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the Phase 1 contract with the Haskell CDM Smith JV for design of the new water treatment plant to include funding to undertake site preparation work and the demolition of some existing facilities, and authorizing the district's finance director to make payments from project number 23039 in the amount not to exceed $5,997,142 and providing an effective date.
Are the public comment cards? So moved.
Motion been made and properly seconded. Madam Clerk?
We do not have any public comment cards, Mr. Chair. The
Thank you.
acceptance of cards is now closed.
Thank you, Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, if I can have the utility district director make this presentation.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Michael Lowe, Executive Director for the Utility Special District. As you saw in the presentation just now from the joint venture team, we're looking for funding here to clear away the existing fueling station and other debris from the site, to undertake further environmental assessments both on this site and at the Avenue U district site in preparation for the ongoing building effort that will be coming later. They also need to bring in some fill and to start preparing for the construction effort. We're going to need to put in power, water, and sewer for the constructors' building, temporary buildings, which will be needed for this project to go ahead.
Thank you, Director Lowe. Comments from the board? Director Lowe and Mr. Sherman, this request is for 5.9 million. This money is going to be coming out of the ARC funds to proceed with this. When will the next request for an allocation be requested from this board?
Mr. Sherman can probably give further detail, but we are looking probably in April to be coming to the board to look for some supplemental funding so that we can do the early GMP for the building of the wells and potentially the water storage tank.
So with that concern, April, if we've only have about 18 million, we've used 6 and we're asking for 6 more, where are we going to be looking for those funds and where are they going to come from come April?
Yes, good evening again, Randy Sharon, District Finance Director. So we have actually issued an RFP for some short-term funding to get us between now and when we actually get the GMP. Again, the ARPA money is already committed. So again, if we're going to continue to try to actually start the construction, do the site work, we're going to need additional funding for that. So again, we would do some short-term funding, and then when we do the permanent funding, we will take out the short-term funding and pay it off.
How much is that short-term funding going to be, Mr. Sherman?
The RFP was up to 40 million based on all the wells that were proposed. But I think by the time we get to April, again, it's up to 40. Does not mean we have to borrow the 40. And again, it will determine on how many wells we think we're actually going to get done.
And can you explain the details of that RFP, the short-term funding? What do you mean when you say we're looking for short-term funding? Is that going to be a bond? Is that a loan? What is that?
It's probably going to be more in the term of a note.
Okay.
It wouldn't be a bond per se. You know, it will have payment terms, but again, it'll have the ability for us to pay it off as soon as you know, on our terms at our time.
Expected rate if it closed today?
I think if we close today, we probably would be around 4.5 or so, but you know, that's just a guess. We'll be receiving the proposals next Wednesday.
Okay. And I guess to that point, looking at every vehicle, every dollar we have to save. So please, let's look into that revolving loan program.
Yes.
I'm not sure what the interest rate is and what the current rate is. I heard the statement from one speaker, but I'm not sure if it's actually 2%, which would be about half the percentage that we're going to be paying on the current RFP that's out. So those are some of the concerns that I have, that we're going out looking for that 40 million today, but we're also have options and other alternatives. So I want us to make sure that we're using and saving every dollar we can.
Yes, I will follow up with the SRF.
Thank you. Additional comments from the board? Madam Clerk, roll call.
Board Member Miller Anderson.
Yes.
Board Member Botel.
Yes.
Vice Chair Lanier.
Yes.
Chairperson Lawson.
Yes.
Unanimous vote.
Thank you. 7B?
Item 7B, resolution number 005-24UD, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the City of Riviera Beach Utility Special District, Palm Beach County, Florida, accepting a grant in the amount of $1 million from the State of Florida Department of Environmental Protection for the rehabilitation of, of 3 of the City of Riviera Beach Utility Special District sanitary lift stations. Authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement between the City of Riviera Beach Utility Special District and the State of Florida Department of Environmental Protection, accepting the terms and conditions of the grant for the design, permitting, and construction of 3 replacement lift stations, authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement between the City of Riviera Beach Utility Special District and the State of Florida Department of Environmental Protection, authorizing the Executive Director of Utility Special District to execute any necessary amendments to the agreement, authorizing the Executive Director of the Utility Special District or his designee to sign all other associated documents required in the agreement and provided for an effective date. Mr. Chair, we do not have any public comment cards. The acceptance of the cards is closed.
Motion to approve Resolution 005-24UD.
Second.
Motion made and properly seconded. Mr. Evans.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, if I get the Director of the Utility District, Mr. Michael Lowe, to make this presentation.
Thank you. Director Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, this is the acceptance of a grant got through the appropriations process last year for $1 million to go towards the replacement of three older lift stations. They're called CAN stations. It's a very old design in which all the electrics are actually underground. This is to replace these stations and bring the electrics and all the controls up to the surface so that we can properly attend to them in a safe manner.
Question from the board? Time frame on this, Director Lowe. The grant that we're receiving, when does this have to be executed and completed?
The grant will be executed within the next few weeks. I don't have the exact timetable. It's within the papers, but we've got sufficient time to complete any design we haven't finished. Some of it we already have, and to put the project out on the street. It will have to be bid properly through the procurement department, and the timetables allow us to do that work properly. We have to check with them that all the big documents are correct.
Okay.
And they understand that.
And I think that the concern I have is that we've had grants that have fallen by the wayside. So that's why I was asking in reference to the time frame. So if anybody has any information as to when we have to complete and execute this grant fully, I want to know clear timelines. And I want that to be always outlined, clear timelines from staff.
We will go into the actual documents, which I don't have in front of me, and we'll get that answer to you.
So I don't like to turn down or not accept any money, but I can't support something that we don't have the details for. We need all of the information. So if we don't have the information as to what this grant and we're accepting the money for.
We do have it. I just don't have it with me. It's in the backup documentation, grant agreement LPA 0677.
Additional comments from the board? Madam Clerk?
Board member,
Yes.
Board Member Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lanier, Chairperson Lawson.
No.
That item passes with Chairperson Lawson dissenting.
Now, Executive Director Evans, Director Lowe, just for clarity's sake, we as a board have to be very transparent and intentional. To not have information and answers for the board is not going to be acceptable for this board. This board wants to accept and move forward with this grant because it's free money that we're accepting. But I can't accept a lack of information and transparency for the residents, because before, certain councils have dropped the ball when it comes to executing grants. We've lost money on a state and federal level. So we need to make sure that we have all the information, that the residents have information, and that the timeline is clearly set. Going into discussion, deliberation, Mr. Evans?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, if I can have the utility district staff and Mr. Nigel Grace come to the front to answer some of the questions that were provided as a result of citizen comments.
Welcome. They're going to be addressing questions from the residents.
Some of the questions that came up as part of the citizen comments, and I will, if staff did not write some of those items down, I will share them. With respect to the water quality and water quality reports, I know that staff is working on some type of items working with DOH, and I do want to allow for staff the opportunity to provide some information concerning water quality reports moving forward. At minimum, one of the things that I would ask the board to indulge staff is to provide for the opportunity at every utility district meeting, as part of the reports from the utility district director, there should be a situation where if there are any concerns or any contamination, sampling errors or what have you, that there's an opportunity to present that information, at least share it in a public setting. But there should be a standard item that's on the agenda just to update the board and the community should there be any issues. Of course, we would follow the rules that are prescribed by the Department of Health, but that's also another way to effectively communicate directly with the board as well as putting information on the website. So I do want to provide for staff to talk about some of the things that they're doing internally concerning water quality and ensuring the preservation of the water quality in the system. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair,
Mayor?
before we get started, I'd like to ask a question. What's the chain of command here?
Mr. Grace is a consultant working with us with this issue. Mr. Melvin Pinkney is the water plant manager. He reports to myself, and Ms. Margie DeBerry is the compliance manager who started in the latter part of last year. She also reports to me.
Who do you report to, Mr. Lowe?
I report to Ms. Deirdre Jacobs, the assistant city manager.
And Ms. Jacobs, you report to Mr. Evans? So that's the chain of command. Okay. So everything you know, who knows, Mr. Lowe?
I beg your pardon?
Everything you know, who do you report to?
I report up to Ms. Jacobs. She wouldn't get every day to day, but we have regular meetings where we go over the major issues with regards to the utility district. And whenever there's any immediate matters that need to be sent to her, then I do send them up to her.
And so why is Niger coming up today? What is he coming up to do?
Mr. Grace is working with us directly on some of the requirements that we're required to meet for the health department. We have to have what's called a level 2 assessment of the system as a result of what happened. And Mr. Grace it has to be done independently. So he is undertaking that assessment.
Okay. Have you worked with us before, Mr. Grace?
Sorry, will you repeat the
Have
question?
you worked with us before?
Yes, I have.
And if you could just state your name for the record as well.
Nigel Grace, I'm with Brown and Caldwell.
How long have you been working with the city?
I would say probably for the past 3 or 4 years.
3 or 4 years? Okay, that's it for now, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Staff, if you want to go ahead and answer the questions that Mr. Evans has put out.
The first thing, I've got a few that are easier to answer, which is there was a comment made with regards to pressure in the system. The normal operating pressure is between 65 and 70 pounds per square inch. What we actually have within the system is spread throughout the distribution system. We do have online pressure monitoring systems that enable us to see whether or not there's a drop in pressure in any particular area, which might indicate a water main problem or something of that nature.
Will that pressure change with the new water plant?
No. There's no need to change it. We've done the hydraulic model and that would work.
And there was a question in reference to the actual pipes infrastructure that we currently have. Building a brand new water plant and putting it through these 80-year-old pipes, what is going to be the effect and impact? Because we'll have a brand new clean water plant, but we'll still have the pipes. Mr. Evans mentioned that we have about $98 million of roadways that need to be addressed, which would of course address the pipes underneath those roadways. But what is our plan for that? Because $200 million is just for the water plant. We still haven't talked about all of the roads that need all of the piping replaced.
There's two separate parts to the answer there. With regards to the impact of the change in water quality from the new plant compared to the old plant, that's part of the entire project and how we handle that going forward with it. We will be looking at what can be done, how we will treat the water, and how that water will then react with the pipe work. With regards to the age of the pipe, we have this assessment ongoing. The assessment is near its completion. As far as the water side, they're still working on TVing gravity sewer mains. But that is giving us a priority list of areas that we need to work on the water main projects, and we have funding within our capital plans to accommodate that.
Can you speak up, Mr. Lowe?
I'm sorry, I've moved the microphone closer to me.
Mr. Evans, the additional questions, you said that you wrote the questions down?
Yes, the issue concerning hydrant and hydrant testing, there was a question that came up concerning that, as well as water main concerns.
Right, hydrant testing, to handle that, we have a team that work on hydrant testing. We're actually putting in a new asset management system that lets us keep better track of exactly where we are with our hydrant testing. We're supposed to review each hydrant as close as we can within every 1 to 2 years, but every 3 years we must do a flow test on that hydrant, and we keep those records up to date. So there's a team that's going around. We had some contract people helping us last year, but we now have a team set up with the new technology that enables them to do that testing. Similarly, we are also expending funds to bring in equipment for valve turning, which again is linked with the geographic information system, and it enables us to keep track of all the valves that we've turned, the condition they're in, the amount of torque required to turn the valve, how many turns that you made on the valve, etc. We do know that there are valves in this system that are not functioning well and aren't holding. We see that when we get water main breaks in older areas of the city. One of the things we're working on with our water distribution crew is to bring in what's called a hydrostop valve, but this is, instead of putting what's called a line stop in, this is actually inserting a brand new valve into the line, which would enable us to do the isolation better and reduce the number of people who are impacted by water main breaks. So we're actively working with the people that make this technology to introduce it into our capabilities. And we have the necessary skills with our teams to do that.
Mr. Evans?
One of the other questions was with regards to utility billing issues, and that's something that we can have a discussion with the resident on the finance side.
Well, actually, Mr. Evans, I do have a question about that, because I actually went over to the water department as well. I had the same issue. I received a notice where I was only billed $77 with zero usage, and then they explained to me that the meters were not working, and that once they replaced the meter, my bill came in at about $300. So I'm assuming that I just wasn't being charged for usage at the time for about a 2 to 3 month period. But if we can get clarity on that, because I had the same issue, I went to staff 2 days ago. So I'm not sure if anybody's aware of what happened with that, or if they can give just clarity, because I'm sure a lot of residents had that same concern, because I know I personally did.
Yeah, at this point, if I can ask the finance director, Mr. Randy Sherman, to come up and address any utility billing issues.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, again, Randy Sherman, Director of Finance for the Utility District. I was actually there the other day when Ms. Williams came in with her water bill, and it actually did show 70,000 gallons haven't been used. And I know that staff was working to actually look at the meter reads on that. Clearly that was, it's causing an error. So we do have personnel looking at the meters and the area of town to see if we can try to figure out why we're getting such, erroneous reads. And again, it may take meter reading replacement or meter replacement in a certain area. We've had some areas where we've had some issues again with lime. These meters are not supposed to be getting manufactured, that's not supposed to happen. But again, we are looking at that and working with the actual meter provider. I'm not familiar, Chair Lawson, with your particular issue, but
The same issue that Ms. Williams had.
that Ms. Williams had.
I had the same issue where my meter was not properly being read. I had received a bill for it, be it $70, $77 for about a 2 to 3 month period, and then all of a sudden my bill came in at about $300.
Yeah, to me, what that says, it sounds like it was stuck, and then all of a sudden it got unstuck, and that's again the Lyme problem. And these meters were not supposed to be affected by Lyme, but it seems that they are. So,
how do we get ahead of that?
I'm sorry?
How do we get ahead of that?
Well, again, I think it's happening in certain pockets of the city. So again, we may have to go through and change out the meters if there's a Lyme buildup in there, get them cleaned out, and then, we would just, repurpose them at another, further on down the line.
I'm assuming that's a more technical question. Is that something that needs to be done? Director Lowe or Mr. Pinckney?
We know there is, from past problems with the lime plant, we know there's still issues with lime in the pipelines. One of the things we did just 18 months ago was to do some unidirectional flushing. We were actually discussing that within the project. We would certainly be doing more of that work prior to ongoing in order to try and keep clearing the lines. But it's really the final deal is once we switch to the new plant, we definitely got to make certain that we make every effort to clear the lines. And it's going to be part of our plan.
Mr. Evans?
Chair, when the last time we tested hydrants? How often do we do that?
Almost every week we're testing some hydrants.
How many do we have in the city?
It's just over 1,000.
Testing a couple every week, you said?
They do them in batches. We have records that we can bring up, but they sometimes do, a team works on it for a week and they'll do several hydrants, 2 or 3 a day over the course of the week. And it all gets entered into our new system so we know exactly what their condition is. One of the things we need to know at all times is what the flow capabilities of those hydrants are, particularly when there's buildings coming into the area or whatever. So we need that data and it's available to us within our GIS system.
Is the UD fully staffed, Mr. Lowe?
No, it's not.
What we short? What is UD short?
Currently, we are missing a junior engineering position. We're meeting the maintenance, engineering maintenance person for the water plant and the well field. We're missing the senior superintendent in charge of wastewater. We're missing 1 or 2 field operations people, and we also need 1 lab tech. Yes, we did have another lab tech that was due to start, but they've taken another opportunity. So we're going back out. We have names to call in for interview, but
how important is those positions?
Every single one of those positions is important in their own way. Obviously, the engineers and the superintendents particularly help us. For instance, when we've got projects that we're trying to run out in the field, or even to research problems that we're having within the system. Lab techs are important so that it gives Mr. Berry more time. She doesn't have to go out in the field as much, gives her more time if we're fully staffed there, so that she can work on our policies and procedures. So every single one of them has some impact or other. Water plant, we're nearly always looking for people. It's like a revolving door. Some of the cities pay way more than, they put people right at the top of the grade within a few months of going. And so we're not the only one that has that issue.
So We are putting it out. We're just not getting people to come to work for us.
We're having difficulty filling some of the positions,
And
yes.
it's because of pay?
I would say pay is one of the issues, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Evans, do we have any other questions from the public?
That's all I have, Mr. Chair. The rest were comments.
Thank you. Board, do we have any questions for staff?
Mr. Chair,
Dr. Botel, go ahead.
does the water that we are delivering now meet the regulatory requirements? Are we delivering water that meets what it is we're supposed to be delivering?
That is correct at this time.
And can you just explain to people what are those regulatory requirements? What does that mean when you say we're meeting the regulatory requirements? What does that mean?
Okay. One of the things we have is we have a series of sample points that are throughout the city. And so on a monthly basis, we have to go and take samples of those points, have them analyzed, and we then send those reports to the health department. At the same time, we have to take samples at all the wells that are operational. And also we take routine analysis on a 2-hourly basis in the water plant, and we send reports back to them on the quality of the water leaving the water plant. So there's a long stream of analyses that are done on a regular basis or every day on the whole water system.
Okay. And what processes are we putting into place now? Will we be putting into place to ensure that nothing like what happened in June and July will happen again?
We are completely vamping our sampling system, the regulations associated with them. We're putting in decision trees so that people clearly understand in this circumstance, what's the next step, etc. So that we make certain that when we are needing to report anything immediately, we know who to report it to, who we should inform of it, etc. So that we have a much clearer, detailed understanding. And Mr. Berry is working hard on that now. Also, if we get particular results in certain areas, where are the supplemental results meant to be taken? So we're putting that together. We were already working on that, but we're accelerating and getting it back through, and we will be sending that through to the health department for their final approval.
Okay, thank you.
Additional comments from the board?
Yes,
Mayor, go ahead.
One more, Chair. And just to let the community know, we still have an investigation going on with the OIG. So we're just waiting, just to give you guys a brush of what's going on. All right.
Thank you, Mayor. Additional comments? Dr. Botel?
No.
Vice Chair Lanier? Ms. Miller Anderson? Mayor Felder? One comment just for staff, and this is just in closing. We're currently looking at a situation where residents have been informed of a noticing fecal matter concerns with our water. And honestly, staff has not given us clear transparency. I'm very concerned that we as staff, as the council, are just hearing about information come January. Mayor Felder asked about chain of command. I'm sorry, Mayor Felder asked about chain of command, and Mr. Evans, this stops on you. We have to get to the bottom of this because we have investigations going on. You're working on trying to figure out what's happening in the UT department. I got a bill for $400 the other day, and I'm trying to figure out what do my residents expect if I'm a sitting board member and I'm getting hit with a notice that was improperly cleaned because of the lime in the pipes. It's like every day something new is happening. So ultimately, Mr. Evans, you have your board looking crazy. We don't know certain information, and that's not acceptable. So I need you to get this district under control. Because if I have to choose between my residents and you, I have to choose my residents. So Mr. Evans, please get this under control because the board cannot be held accountable for a lack of transparency and a proper noticing and a simple dropping of the ball in our utility district. That's why our mayor has to go to outside firms to do investigations because our staff is not doing their job. So I can't just sit here and act like everything's happy-go-lucky. I'm so proud that we were able to move the narrative forward with having Haskell present. By having this new firm come in front of a board and not the first update be this water and the issues that our residents were addressing is concerning. So we're closing out the meeting after we've gone through all the kumbaya, the great things that's happening, but we need to make sure every single meeting is noticed with clean water, with potable water, and with clear direction as to what we're going, because that should be the only discussion. We can do two things at once by trying to get the city moving forward, but I see the priority with our residents, and the only concern is healthy water. So with that being said, residents, we're going to have public comments at our city council meeting. It's going to start immediately as soon as the council meeting starts, so we don't keep everyone here too late. And with that, our meeting's adjourned.